And welcome to Town Team Mortgage, NMLS number 12007. We are powered by Leader One Financial Corporation. I am Zach Schwartz. Standing right next to me, the one, the only, Barry Sterner. You're in a patriotic mood today. Why is
It's
that?
almost on. You're going to stand for the national anthem? It's called national. Can we play this?
I don't think it's copyrighted. By the dawns, I mean, I don't know.
What's so wrong?
There you go. So it's Cubs opening day. Barry, you are a true blue Cubs fan. That's kind of the household I was raised in. And then my youngest
What
sister.
happened to you? Where did you go wrong?
Well, if I had to pick, I'm still a Cubs fan. But my youngest sister married a Sox fan, and now she's a Sox fan. Is that one of those things that go with marriage when change religion, change the teams you root for?
I would not marry anybody who was a Sox fan.
Yeah. Well, good thing you weren't officiating at that wedding there. So yeah, big day for Chicago and Cubs fans, opening day. But there is bigger news for those of you that have been watching the market the last 2 days, because in a vacuum, you are just watching the stock market. Let me just bring up a little chart there.
Down 4%.
Like
Another
that is
4%
just
today.
down today. S&P 500 4%, Dow 3.7%.
If you want to look at the big picture, I'll make it simple for you. We're basically down to where we were last July.
Yeah, and we'll go to the big picture here for those of you watching. And yeah, last July, look at that.
Yep.
It almost lines up.
There you go.
So
amazing how that happens, huh?
What that also means is, here in mortgage land, we watch the 10-year Treasury, and that dipped below a pretty big, would you say support level or psychological level of 4% yield. And I've been getting, I don't know about you, but I have been getting a ton of calls today with people asking, hey, the 10-year yield, it's under 4%. Like, how much better are mortgage rates?
What day did we send out our newsletter?
Was that Tuesday maybe? Or Wednesday? I think it was Tuesday. Or it could have been one day. I don't know.
I think Tuesday we sent out that the 10-year was going to be heading down, and interest rates were heading to 6.5%.
So yeah, but earlier this week, I mean, you called it, and I've got the text messages to prove it too. You've been
but we wrote it on the newsletter too.
Yeah, but you send me these charts with all these lines all over it. It's like hieroglyphics to me, like I'm Indiana Jones, studying some ancient language, and I'm gonna, get warped somewhere else. But yeah, you basically called it. But here's the thing. People calling me today are a little bit disappointed because they may have talked to me earlier this week, and today's rates are maybe, depending on your scenario, 0.125 to most 0.25 better than they were for you earlier this week. And why is that? I'm going to give you my answer. Barry, feel free to jump in. But this is a volatile market, and the people on the other side of the trade, the big money, basically the people that set the mortgage rates, they are watching, and they want to feel comfortable. They need to find a new normal range for a 10-year Treasury and other things before they're going to commit to a ton of 30-year mortgage loans. Um, when the reverse happens, when you see a spike in the 10-year Treasury, they are quick to jump up on mortgage rates because they hedge their bets and they want to make money. So right now, if this is a new normal and the 10-year is going to be under 4%, they're hedging. They'll slowly come down and they'll make more, they're making money basically with that, having a larger margin built into the volatility. Um, and but that's basically what it is, because if we start next week and the 10-year Treasury is back above 4%, they'll be happy they didn't start, they didn't jump the gun on mortgage rates, versus give it a week, 2 weeks. If we start seeing the 10-year Treasury yield consistently opening and closing below that 4% mark, there's room for further improvement. And as you were saying, you see a trade line and a trend line down to 3.7 even. That leaves for further improvement. But mortgage rates do not trade hand in hand with Treasury rates, and they are slower to go down than they are to go up. And because of the hedging, and because there's not a new normal yet for them to base the mortgage rates off of. How do you think I did there?
It's fine. I think the people that are listening to us, and there should be more because we're on the money so often, I think there's some misdirection going on right now, and a lot of people are focused on the stock market. And I 100% believe that the Trump administration is focused on interest rates. And the stock market, unfortunately, is,
A side
I don't know,
effect?
a side effect. They're using the stock market going down to knock interest rates down. They want interest rates down. They want the dollar to be cheaper. They want the value of the dollar to be cheaper, so our goods are worth more overseas. Um, and I think this tariff talk is really being used as a misdirection to get the ultimate goal, which is lower interest rates, to get the Fed to lower interest rates, and also for people to buy treasuries. You
Well,
have to remember, most of the
most
time, just let
people.
me finish. Let
Okay.
me
Yeah,
finish.
yeah.
When you sell your stocks, and obviously stocks are down 5% today, they're down 15, 20% off the highs. They're down more than that off the highs. When you sell your stock, the money goes basically into cash, and most of that cash is in a money market fund or a treasury fund or whatever it happens to be. It's good. It helps lower interest rates, and I don't think a lot of people realize that when they're selling stocks, that's where, generally speaking, their money goes into treasuries or some kind of bonds or things like that. And this is all. Don't forget, the Trump administration got into uh, the presidency. The bond market high around that time was 4.85. If you want to show your chart, which obviously I can't see right here,
Yeah, I don't
4.85.
have it yet, but
So we're down nearly a full point, and that's where they want to go. And I hate to say this, but this is most all about commercial real estate and the debt that's coming upon us right now. Commercial real estate, there's supposed to be, I don't know, $5 to $7 trillion worth of mortgages that commercial lenders have out there right now. And when the Biden administration was in power there, the FDIC allowed the banks to basically kick the can and extend some of the loans that they had, lots of loans with commercial entities that couldn't refinance at that particular time because rates were high. And the Trump administration wants to get this done this summer. I think no doubt in my mind, they'd like to see the 10-year bond down in the low threes, which would put our mortgage market into the fives again, middle fives.
right. And I
And I
think
think you would say right now that in the mid fives, there's a lot of mortgage business.
there
Go
is,
ahead.
yeah, because for consumers, for people out there, they don't see mortgages really as an investment. You know, you see the stock market and you're because that's like your 401k basically, but you have to think for an institutional player, so they are looking at all of these investments and basically as the stock market becomes less of a sure thing and your returns on the stock market go down, you now focus on other alternative investments. So I'm not expecting positive return in the stock market. Oh, here's a 7% mortgage. That's much safer. I'm going to do that. Well, when a lot of the money now moves from the stocks to the mortgages, now there's competition and that's what pushes mortgage rates down. And then you have the supply and demand as lowered mortgage rates, more people want to get in, you know, you as a consumer you get the mortgage. And that's the balance of supply and demand. But basically, they're trying to shift it. So right, stocks are less. Um, are basically they want to shift the institutional money less from stocks, more to mortgages, bring interest rates down. And then the question becomes do these tariffs cause a recession or do they cause a spurt in domestic economic activity and production or a little of both?
Well, I mean, tariffs are bad
Well,
any way you look, any
tariffs
way
by
you look at it.
themselves are inflationary, but
But there's other things happening right now.
exactly, everything's
For
circular.
instance, food prices are definitely going down. Eggs are going down. Gasoline prices. I was out in Arizona. They were under $3. Don't forget, if you live anywhere in Cook County, you have the highest taxes in the nation. That's why your gas is still high. So thank the people in power currently for that.
I got my Costco membership.
And if the economy
I get
begins to
5% off.
slow, yeah, if the economy begins to slow, you're going to have lower food prices. And one of the negative things about tariffs, and all the farmers here in Illinois, I'm sure, are very unhappy, is that when the Chinese put tariffs on pork, soybeans, corn, wheat, I don't know, poultry, whatever you want to say, all the things that are bought by the Chinese,
Right.
it's going to lower prices here in the United States and
Right.
cattle, obviously,
Because
um,
it makes it
because
less
it's not going to be able to get out of the country. And
it
agriculture for sure is going to go down here if these tariffs stay in place with the Chinese. Agriculture prices will go down in the United States because we do not import that much agriculture.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes total sense. But as again, that's bad for, you know, if you're an exporter, you don't want the Chinese taxing the pork. But if you're a buyer
Right.
domestically, that's good for you. But I
Correct.
think again, the idea is, um,
The idea that I'm trying to say is that I believe the Trump administration thinks that they're going to win on two fronts here. They're going
but
to win.
that you want to bring
They're going
production
to bring
of other things to
inflation
the
down.
United States.
Inflation's
Yeah.
going to come down. That's what
Okay.
they believe. They believe that inflation's going to come down. Now,
Why? Why
the
do you
Fed
think?
disagrees today.
But why are they doing
Powell
it?
did not agree.
Why are they doing it in such a shock? Because, you know, when I was taught, you know, in economics class 101, they said, you know, there's times for these things, but you don't want to make the market you don't want basically to see what the charts are doing, which are these large like surprises. You want to telegraph what you're going to do
Okay,
and
but
then implement
they've
it
been telling you
slowly.
since beginning of January before they even got in
But
that they were going to do this with tariffs.
why immediate
It's been 4
40%?
months.
Yeah, but why immediate 4%? Why not 10%? And then a year from now it goes to 20, you know, so at least gives industry and people time to find alternative means, because you slap a tariff on an import from
Okay,
Thailand
well,
or
you're
Taiwan,
wrong because, well, okay, well,
you
you're
can't
way
get a
off.
factory here in the US
All
at
right, well, the factories,
100%.
the factories aren't going to be done, but Costco, Walmart, Target, all the big chains and all the major companies, I mean, have been shipping things in now since November when Trump won. I mean, all the warehouses are stocked right now. So we're not going to see these tariffs hurt us for at least 3, 4 months. I mean, you won't see it because everybody has stocked up. The opposite of what you just said is happening now. You can't build a plant, but you could bring in all your products, way
So what is
earlier.
the, I
And
mean, what's the
they brought
official
everything in.
date? What is there a cutoff date that it's like on this date now?
What?
They're like, how does it work? Where do they take the money? Where does the, like, and
What
what
money?
date? The tariff. So
Tariffs started yesterday.
so now basically it's like if I had something in transit and it didn't get into the
No,
United
you bought it
States,
already. You bought it already.
so now it's just the date of purchase.
I think it's a date of purchase, yes. That's what I would guess.
So
The
I
date of
bought,
purchase.
I
As long
bought,
as it was shipped, as long as it was shipped
and
in,
who
yeah.
pays it? Because it's like I bought 100 t-shirts from this Chinese company
The buyer's going to pay it, obviously. I would assume, right?
and
The
it's
buyer?
self-reported. I don't, I just
Or
like, I
maybe
know the
no, it's
concept of
probably you're
it.
probably right. You're probably right. It's the seller that pays the tariff and they get the money from the buyer if they want to. It's the seller importing it.
And
Yeah.
it's like it won't get past customs in theory if you haven't paid the tariff.
I would assume so.
Like
Yeah, it's
you have to get the
works something
stamp.
like that.
I know that with like the European Union, they've got like the tax stamp and
Yeah,
like
VAT.
your
They have
VAT
VAT.
and
Yeah, right. Well, everybody's got taxes on us. Let's be honest. It was just the way that the Trump administration decided to figure out what a tariff was. For instance, Vietnam. The administration said that they have 90% tariffs. Well, I know for a fact that is untrue. And so I started reading about it, trying to figure it out. And what they said that they did the following day was they took the trade imbalance with Vietnam. They divided by some cockamamie way that they did it. I don't know how they did it because it was very hard to figure out. And then they came up with 90%. And then they said, okay, well, we're going to put a tariff on them for 46%. Well, I mean, that's just not right. It's not right because the tariffs on Vietnam products. By the way, almost every sporting good that you buy these days, Nikes in Vietnam. I mean, all
I mean
Adidas,
it's like a
everything
novelty.
is made in Vietnam now. By
Well,
the way,
well, I'm just saying it's a novelty when you buy anything that is made in America. Like that's
correct.
the unusual thing. If I pick up any product and I see like made in the USA,
Right.
whoa, like that's the shock.
You want to know a
So
big one that you like? I know that you like a lot too.
what?
Toys. Almost all the toys are made on the far east, right?
Yeah,
Almost every toy.
the one I'm
I mean,
playing with right
we
now.
have hardly any toy manufacturing here in the United States.
No, it just hasn't been
And-
competitive. So let's go off of serious economic news again. Go
yeah, but the
to,
economic news goes right into
well, I wanted
what we do.
yeah, go
And
to, I was gonna say
truthfully,
go to
and let's be
town.
truthful here.
We're always
Truthfully,
truthful.
if we only care
Why do
about,
you say truthfully
well,
when you're
because it's a
always
bad thing to
truthful?
say, but the truth of the matter is, the more the stock market goes down, for anybody listening, the lower interest rates are going to go down, and the easier it will be for you to refinance your
As
credit
long
card
as
debt
you
and
keep
buy a
your
house and all the
job,
rest.
and as
Yes.
long as the recession doesn't force all these other all your neighbors to list their house for sale because they can't pay their mortgages and property values
Correct.
fall out from under you. So
Yes.
it's a delicate balance of both sides that you always, you just hope we stick the landing. We heard that back with the Fed raising interest rates. Like, are they going to stick the landing? It's the same
You
thing
have your
with
little chart on the prediction for interest rates because they're now predicting
like 5
4 cuts
cuts or
this year.
4 cuts. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
do you
don't
have
have
that
that
little
up.
chart?
No, I don't have that up. Here's what I want
All
to
right.
ask you about, because this I found fascinating. I'm not a baseball guy, but
We're going baseball
but
again?
it's opening day, and you would think like there's like 100+ years of baseball history, and I'm just reading this week they invented a new wooden bat. Have you?
Well, it's not invented. They've messed with the bats for years and years
There's
and
a new
years.
bat, and the
Well,
Yankees are
not the
using a new
Yankees.
bat.
The Cubs were using this bat in batting practice last year.
Okay,
It's called a torpedo bat. And the premise of the bat is very simple. And some former baseball players that were very good that I was listening to do a podcast yesterday were making fun of these guys. So here's the premise, which you will like.
okay.
If you ever look at a baseball bat, in the middle of a baseball bat is something called the label of a wooden bat. There's a label there. And the label is right in the middle part, and where that label is supposedly the weakest part of the bat. Does that make sense?
Is that where
So
when you hit it, it like kind of hurts your hands because you?
if you hit it where the label is, it will generally crack. It will
And it
break in
hurts your
half, or it
hands,
will
right?
splinter. It will hurt your hands, obviously, yes, and it will also break on the wooden bat
It was a
in
bad
that area. That's the
vibration.
weakest part in the middle. You're trying to hit the ball up towards the top, right? There's a
What they
sweet
call the
spot on the
sweet
bat.
spot. I know from tennis.
There you go.
There's a sweet spot.
Just like tennis, exactly like tennis. Now, with technology, over the last few years, some physics guy from MIT, I believe, if I'm saying that wrong, I don't know which one it is. He's currently working with the Yankees, but he had been working on this and trying to get other major league teams to use it. There's many major league players. I was just in Arizona watching the Cubs play the Diamondbacks, and I think there were 4 or 5 players using the bat. They were able to look at video and see where on the bat these particular baseball players were hitting the ball. Not all of them were hitting the ball in the sweet spot. Many of them were getting jammed and hitting it towards that label, towards the middle. So this bat maker took a little bit off the top of the bat, right?
Uh-huh.
The circumference, the roundness at the top of the bat, which is generally the biggest part of the bat, right? The
Yep.
top is generally the biggest. The middle is the middle part of the bat is middle size, and the handle is the smallest part. And they move some of that fat part from the top to the middle, or not exactly the middle, but near the middle, depending on where the computers and the analytics, said you were hitting the ball. And that's why the bat looks different. So they basically they're trying to move the sweet spot to your individual sweet spot. I assume when you play tennis, some people hit the ball a little to the right of the sweet spot, to the left, down, blah, 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 blah. If you did analytics, you probably hit the ball in a certain area a lot.
Yeah. Well, so the thing is, there's 2 schools of thought when it comes to that. Is it's like, oh, when I hit my tennis shot, you know, I'm not generating enough topspin, so I should get this racket that has a different weighting to it that so my wrong or bad swing gives me more topspin, or I should fix my swing and just
That's what the guys at the podcast were
get
talking
better
about.
topspin.
Maybe you should fix your swing instead of getting a whole new bat.
So
That's what they were talking about.
so it's like one or the other. And yeah, I just thought when it came to baseball, there just wasn't that much technologically we could do anymore to give anybody an edge. And it was
And
just
the other
fascinating.
and the other interesting part is that the bats for many years were all maple. And in order to do this on the bat, they have to be birch. It has to be a different
Are there rules
material.
on the type of wood?
No, it's just the way you can't make a maple bat for some reason like a torpedo bat. It has something to do with the wood. So you have to make it with birch.
Are there weight limit? Like what are the MO? What makes a bat legal or not?
There's circumference rules, meaning how round the bat could be at the largest particular spot.
Right.
And the longest it can be is 44 inches. I don't know what the exact circumference would be. I'm going to probably say 2 5/8 is the general number. So they have those two things. How large is how big the roundness of the bat can be at the largest spot, and they have a size thing. But weight wise, I think it could be anything that you want. I mean, if you can make
And
a
can you
bat
have it be fat
goes up,
that widest amount, the whole length of the bat except for the
no,
grip?
no.
So it's
You
like
don't
a
even have to. You don't even have to make it that wide. You can make it thinner. You just can't make it any fatter. You can't go up to home plate with a tennis racket,
right,
is what they're
right,
basically saying. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
But I just wonder, right? But you're saying they're shaving some off the top, so it's like the thickest.
exactly.
So it's like an area limitation almost.
They're
Like they
basically exactly. They're basically leaving the weight exactly that you had it before and moving the fat part of the bat towards the middle, if that makes sense. Because the middle part of the bat, was
right
shaved down. It wasn't
because
as large circumference wise.
too much weight, and you don't have enough bat speed.
And
Um,
obviously you're going to feel it in your hands because the weight now is more towards your hands than it is at the top of the bat. So the
so that'll
bat's
let
going to feel
you get
different.
around the ball faster, probably. If the
Not
weight's more
exactly.
towards your hand.
It allows you to hit the ball towards the middle of the bat that normally would have probably cracked at that particular spot because it was
Uh-huh.
thinner, and it allows you to hit it there now, and that's
But
almost the sweet spot has now moved from the top of the bat, towards the top to closer to the middle. How's that? That's the easiest way to describe
yeah,
it.
but
They're
but
moving the sweet spot because you, as
so
Will Clark said, a former baseball player, hit a lot of home runs and was a great hitter because you suck and you can't figure out how to
but
hit.
not
So
so
you had to fix your bat.
so the now the thing that's gonna, I bet you, here's the market we need to get in. um Tennis elbow, that's kind of developed as a thing as tennis rackets got lighter.
Yeah.
Pitchers suffer a similar injury because without the counterweight and you're accelerating, you know now
But the
if the
weight is
weight is
generally the
closer to
same
your
now on the
hand, yeah, but
bat.
if it's closer to your hands,
Possible.
the 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 acceleration part is easier at the tip.
It's
So
possible.
baseball elbow for
But
batters,
if you hit the tip now, your bat's probably going to crack up there now.
because now that's the weak spot. Yeah. Um,
Yes.
but it's always, I always love that when it's like they come to the Olympics and they're wearing a brand new type of swimsuit,
This
the
is the
shark
first
suit.
time. This is the first time in a very, very long time that there's been any change to the upper portion of the bat. They've been working on the handles for years and years and years, all different types of handles. But the top portion, the sweet part of the bat, has really been untouched since probably I was a little kid. The last thing that they did on the top of the bats is they made it concave. They scooped a portion of the top of the bat out to make it a little bit light, to make the bat a little bit lighter,
Yeah,
which they still have. It's called cupped. They
right.
still have it cupped. It's been that way
When
since the
I, at
80s.
least like for kids in little leagues, and again they may have phased this out because it got
Kids in little leagues
dangerous.
don't use wood
You had
bats.
like metal, aluminum
Right.
bats, and then like
So now you're going to see aluminum bat makers, I'm sure, immediately start making these types of
that
bats.
shape,
That shape.
even though that's not even necessarily the best kind. I mean, you know what? Softball bats too. Those are just like thicker,
Exactly.
these fatter
Thicker at
bats,
the
and
top.
like,
Exactly. More like a softball bat. You're 100% correct.
um,
More like a softball bat.
but yeah, just like fascinating advances in technology that, who would think
But let me throw something
a
else out
wooden
you that
stick
you
that
need.
hits a ball. Now, yeah, yeah.
But here's the really interesting part. All these bats are custom for the individual hitter, meaning that sweet spot that's moving only moves a half an inch or a quarter of an inch or a millimeter, whatever it happened to be for you, the particular batter. Each bat now, that torpedo thing is made a little bit different based on what the analytics show where you're hitting the ball. Which I'm sure all the tennis rackets for the major players are the
Oh
same way,
yeah.
obviously.
Well, right. Is exactly. The major tennis players, they get a contract, and like Wilson will make them their racket, and then they wrap it in like in a racket that you can buy at the store, but it won't have the same weighting that the player has. You know what I mean? Like it
Right.
looks like the player's using this branded racket. I don't think baseball has that type of.
Oh, absolutely. All the bats are custom like that. All the bats are
But you don't go
customized like that.
buy like you'd go buy Jordan shoes. Like you don't buy somebody's bat.
You can buy someone's bat
Oh,
based on their measurements. They have their specific measurements and weight that they want each
see
batter. You can
that
buy that.
like you can't go buy like Roger Federer's racket because that was a custom racket, but or Alcaraz's racket. Um, Even though it looks like he's using the Babolat or this Wilson that you can go buy, it's not. They're using a custom one that you can't buy. Um, I don't know about golf, but yeah, again, I'm not a baseball guy, but I see that pop up in my feed. I'm a technology guy, and yeah, wooden stick technology. Just didn't think we had room for improvement, and we did. So, just wanting to wrap this all up because we're already hitting 30 minutes, which like flies by so quickly with you,
Yeah, but we had
Barry.
the national anthem. We talked about baseball. We got a lot of
Mhm.
stuff going on.
You want to keep your finger on the pulse because mortgage rates and news about mortgages is oftentimes pushed off the front page, um, usually pushed off the front page. And
I'm gonna throw one last thing about the mortgage market that we didn't talk about.
yeah,
And here's an interesting thing that I read, I don't know, 2 days ago. There were some realtors surveyed the last couple of weeks, and the survey went something like this. By the
survey
way,
says
the Dow's down 2,000 points, so it's a lot of points. Um, Survey said that with the market going down, the stock market going down, and tariffs and all the rest, that many people are starting to believe that housing prices have peaked, and the realtors who were surveyed believed, and I totally agree with them, I don't know if you do, that we will see a huge increase in the next few months, especially since we've had such low inventory right now in inventory, because people, like you said, once one neighbor thinks that prices are going down, they sell, then the next number sells, a domino effect here, that you're going to see a lot of people starting to say, all right, it's time to sell. Just like the stock market here. Nobody got to sell at the top. Very few people got to sell at the top. By the way,
only
just so
one
that
person, only one person gets to sell at the top.
Yeah, well,
That's
let me just tell you something. I sold some Nvidia very near the top. It was just an
good.
accident, but I
Good
did.
for you. Good for
Right
you.
near 135.
I'm just
I knew you,
upset. You
I knew
know,
you'd like that.
what I don't, as much as I don't like Trump, I really don't like he's impacting my Nintendo Switch 2
What?
pre-orders. We're gonna go live like in a week, and
Yeah.
now they they canceled that, and they may have a
Why?
repricing because
Oh, higher
Nintendo
pricing.
announced the pricing,
Yeah.
and then this happened, and there were going to be
Well, let me ask you
pre-orders.
this. How long do you think this could possibly last for? Because if you look back during the pandemic, I mean, that was a great buying opportunity, and we probably didn't
That's
buy enough.
that's the game though, Barry. It's
Yeah.
like if it's like that game of chicken and who's going to blink first. And it's like, and if you could predict that, we'd all buy in at the right time. You'd sell at the top, you'd buy at the bottom, you know, because
Very hard to do.
today we wake up to news China's throwing on retaliatory tariffs, which you're saying, and then it's like we could like our tariffs were not retaliatory, they were just to you know combat existing restrictions on American exports, but then you add on to that, and then maybe we have to increase ours further, and then you have a full-blown trade war. And like I'm just saying, everything and anything, like anything can
But let me
happen
ask
from
you this
everything.
question. Let me ask you this
There's
question.
no predicting it.
Biden is not in power. The Democrats are not in power. You have somebody in power right now who's all his friends and himself are very, very involved in investment. Would you agree? Lots of Trumps and a lot of people who are working for Trump have huge stock market and real estate investments. Would you agree on that?
I would
Many, many, many,
agree
many,
for
many who put them
both
in
party.
power.
I mean, for both parties, like
Well, specifically the Trump administration and rural America, which is most of America, as we see during every election, right? Which is the farmers, right? The people who are putting food on our table.
okay.
They're going to get hit very hard here, and the majority of them, I mean, there's no doubt, voted for Republicans and Trump. I mean,
So
they always do.
is this really just like turning on his base, or is this going to
I'm
end up
I'm what I'm trying to tell you is
benefiting?
what I'm trying to tell you is this is not going to last for a long time
Okay.
because it's hurting too many of the people in power right now.
So you think rates are going to drop, but that is not going to be sustained.
No,
I'm
I
taking
don't
it
know.
further. I know I'm taking it further with
I
mortgage
don't
rates because
I think mortgage rates are going to get back into the high fives because that's where they want them to go. I think inflation is going to go down. I just don't think the stock market's going to zero. I think
it's never
probably
going to zero, but
right.
but
This is not a
bear market,
this is not a
yeah.
recommendation, but sadly, the majority of investors, myself included, when things are going up, it's called FOMO. FOMO, you know what that means?
Fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out, right? So when things are going up, you're always buying. Are you not? You're always buying more, more,
Not
more.
me. I'm worried. I'm like, why? Like, I, this
Most of the time,
everyone's drinking
well,
the taking the
but
ecstasy.
let's
The
look at
party's
it the
gonna
way
stop.
let's look at it the way it is. In order for stocks to keep going up, someone's got to be buying, right?
So
Otherwise, they
right,
stop going up,
right.
right? But when things go down, and this is Warren Buffett's uh, uh, um, thought process and
Theory, yeah.
Charlie Munger, when things are going down and nobody wants it,
That I
if you could,
mean,
if
find
you
the
could change your
opportunity.
investing style and be buying now, when you're really scared and fearful, in the long run, Warren Buffett has wrote, and so has Charlie Munger, his former partner who passed away, that this is the time to buy. No, you don't know where the bottom is, but when something's on sale, listen, if you go to the store, right? Let's look at eggs, for instance. And
Right.
you went to the store a couple weeks ago and eggs were $9 a dozen and you didn't buy, maybe you bought just a couple. And now
They
today
don't
the
let you
eggs,
buy a couple eggs. What
oh,
store are you going to?
you could get a half of a box.
Oh
You could
yeah, if
get
I'm
a half
saying
a
like you
box.
take 3 eggs out of the
No,
thing,
no,
and they're like,
the half
you know,
of a
have
carton.
3 eggs,
Yeah, you could
please.
buy the half a carton. Listen, eggs were a thing. I saw people buying half a cartons.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
and you could buy it now for $6 a dozen rather than $9 a dozen. Or as we both remember, when toilet paper was really expensive there, you were buying the minimal amount, right? And then it got cheaper, and then we all hoarded it and bought as money as we can. That's the way I think you have to look at the stock market. I have no idea if this is the bottom or the top, but unless we're completely going out of business and things are going to go really, really bad, you should be buying a little bit as you go down rather than always buying so much as it's
Right.
going up. Yeah, that's all.
Or the theory, I mean, again, we're not investment advisors. Literally, just always be buying. You're always just cost averaging because you're buying while it's going
Exactly.
up. You don't know when it's going to turn. You're buying as it's going down. So you'll buy some at the top, you'll buy some at the bottom. But
And your
if
average will
you
be
zoom
pretty
out
good.
of the chart, it goes up over time. So
Yeah.
that's the thing, bear markets
And
never.
that's the same with housing right now. Okay. I think most people would agree that we're probably towards the top of values that houses could pretty much get to because they're so expensive and they're becoming unaffordable for many. Would you agree with that? It's
Yes, but it's a
unaffordable for many.
combination of the rates with the prices,
I'm not
with
saying
the
what the
with
reason is.
the
I'm
cost of
just saying
living and salaries. But I'm
the
saying
current price of
you
housing
can
is
make the
like eggs are
argument, but you
$9.
can make the argument that housing prices go further up if you have wage increases, you have other expenses go down. So inflation comes down, wages go up, and rates come down. House prices could be higher again, could go even higher because rates are cheap and affordability is up, even if that price is higher. So there's so many factors. And that is why, again, you need to go to our website. Even if you are not looking to do something today, get on our email list, get the newsletter, stay informed because we will keep you in the loop of where mortgage rates are at. So you are ready to jump when the time is right. When you look at that 401k statement and you've got a frown, let us save you money on your mortgage with a refinance, because you're going to have the headline of the stock market or the jobs market and not necessarily the mortgage market. But we're here focused on mortgages, home finance, um, and there is literally nobody else better. And I have zero bias in saying that.
Yeah, you have a little bias.
So everybody have a fantastic rest of your week. And yeah, go Cubbies.
Cubs have the bases loaded, 2 outs, and